Since you follow this link, there's a chance that you too are curious about how our country has gotten so far out of control. I've got an interesting tidbit to share with everyone, so after hearing my take on this, some of you will probably try to say this message is anti-American. Nothing could be further from the truth. I should start by saying that I have a profound respect for our country and the United States military, or at least at some point in the past I did. My grandfather and 4 of his brothers all fought during World War II in different corners of the globe. All survived and were lucky enough to live to be old men. My grandfather retired from the United States Army after serving 25 years through World War II as well as the Korean War. After declining a full star general position for his personal differences with the Vietnam War, he decided to get out, and he ended up becoming the chief engineer for the Department of Housing and Urban Development for another 25 years. My point is I don't have a bone to pick with the government or the military, only specific elements within the establishment that have essentially hijacked the levers of power in such a way that nobody alive seems to have noticed but a few. The problem with the military-industrial complex has come to rule our nation with a gripping fist. The same threat, in fact, that President Eisenhower warned us about on his way out of office in January of 1961.
So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
It's become clear that the nightmare I once had about what the world would be like if the Nazis had won the war is no longer a hypothetical fantasy. The same corporate fascist ideology that spawned the Nazi movement is alive and well in America today. Much like the Nazis, the American government has been using propaganda and mass hypnosis techniques to steer public opinion for decades. This isn't some wild theory of mine. Even the slightest amount of research will reveal that the US government has been behind the scenes of big Hollywood movies and big media since the very beginning. In case you hadn't noticed, on the other hand, the media always gets its important information from the government officials. There is no such thing as investigative journalism in the mainstream whatsoever, and in fact, any journalist who digs too deep into certain stories will quickly be removed from any organization. For example, Amber Lyon, who was tried to expose a major tragedy and scandal involving the government of Bahrain and CNN. I know that real good people do work in the government, but not all the people that work in the government are necessarily good. Is it comforting, for example, to know that while my grandfather and many of your grandfathers were fighting in England, France, and Germany and Japan, George H.W. Bush's father, Prescott Bush, was dealing directly with the Nazis via international banking schemes and literally supplying the metal for Hitler's war machine. This went on even after the federal government filed formal trading with the enemy allegations at Bush.
somebody's going to have a lot of sweeping up to do. They want a war. Now, we got to pay for it. And I'm sure that every good American will be glad to help foot the bill. Men and women of the Home Front Army, this victory loan drive is our last chance to buy extra bonds.
The tall man with a hard hat and a whiskers on his chin will soon be knocking at your door, and you ought to be in. The tall man with the hard hat will be coming down your way. Get your savings out when you hear him shout, any bonds today? Come on and get 'em, folks. Come on, skip right up and get 'em. Any bonds today? Bonds of freedom, that's what I'm selling. Any bonds today? Scrape up the most you can. Here comes the freedom man, asking you to buy your share of freedom today. Many stamps today. Give kiddies. We'll be blessed. We all invest in the USA. Sammy, my Uncle Sammy. Here comes the freedom man. Can't make tomorrow's plan. Not unless you buy your share of freedom today. Any stamps, any bonds today.
So why would our government fund big budget films and lord over the mass media outlets? It's certainly not for a hobby or vanity or for profit even. They've got all the money they need, but rather for control. Blockbuster producers, advertisers, and mass media outlets alike are all very aware of how to get into your head. Subtly and incrementally, they have honed a psychological technique to condition large groups of people through subliminal programming. Now, when a person is entranced by, for example, a movie or a show or even a commercial, a phenomenon called temporary suspension of disbelief occurs. And this occurs when one becomes so relaxed and involved in paying attention to a film that their brain patterns go into an altered alpha state. And in this state of suspended disbelief, a person's subconscious is essentially wide open for manipulation. So, in such a state, a person might subconsciously subscribe to an idea or suggestion where they normally would have disagreed with the same idea or suggestion under normal circumstances. If such a subliminal message is absorbed repeatedly over and over again over time, the subject might be planted with a subconscious seed of sorts that will later surface in the conscious mind as an original thought or idea. So many people ask, well, who cares if they're putting perverted images or satanic images into the cartoons? Who cares? It's not like it's going to hurt anyone, and, they're not really doing it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That's what I hear all the time. And my answer to that is a question. So let's just say for a minute that I am correct and that the US government, or any entity for that matter, is trying to use mind control techniques on the general population via motion pictures and other media. Even if they were trying to gain some type of positive end from this programming, I don't know, say getting everyone to brush their teeth at 8:30. Even if that was their goal, do you really want some unknown group of people mucking around in yours or your child's subconscious mind? The reality is that our subconscious mind is actually many orders of magnitude more powerful than our conscious mind. Hypnotherapists are in the business of fiddling around with the subconscious, and across the board, patients have no memory of the hypnosis. However, they would only have moments earlier been involved in some deep psychotherapy. So, in fact, most decisions we make are done on a subconscious level instantly without us even realizing it or thinking about it. One may prefer Pepsi over Coke, for example, and that same person may not be able to taste the difference between the two in a blind test.
comes the freedom man.
Can't make tomorrow's plan.
Not unless you buy a share of freedom today. Any stamps, any bonds today.